The text really says the word inn means guest room in the Greek, and that's why the NIV says guest room. There was no place available, and really there was no place available for her to have this child, except most scholars agree in a very special place we find her. It says in a manger, and a manger is very specific. There was a place in Bethlehem. See, Bethlehem was not only the house of bread, it was not only the city of David, it was not only a place where Joseph was from, but Bethlehem was known for something else. It was in Bethlehem where shepherds raised the sheep and the lambs that were to be sacrificed. Every day, 2 sacrifices had to be made. So over 730 sheep and lambs had to be sacrificed, 2 each day. And it was a special group of shepherds that lived right outside of Bethlehem. And these shepherds were raising sheep and lambs for the Passover, for the feast, for the celebrations, and for all the sacrifices. And in this place was a place called the Watchtower of the Flock. We referenced it in Micah chapter 4. In Micah chapter 4, verse 8, it said, at the watchtower of the flock, a king would come. It was in this place at the watchtower. It was a watchtower at one point in time for other things, but at this time, during Jesus' time, it was a place where the shepherds would birth the new sheep or the new lambs. And in this place, at the bottom, there was a stone, a limestone cut out. And it was cut like with a V in it. And what happened when they would have a new lamb born or a new sheep would born, they would place it on this stone called a manger. And on this stone, they would wrap the new baby sheep or the new baby lambs in what they call swaddling clothes or cloths. They would wrap it up in there so the little baby wouldn't kick or the little sheep wouldn't kick around and get bruised and get hurt. So Bethlehem is not only the city of David, not only a place where Mary and Joseph come to, but not only a place called the house of bread, but Bethlehem is specific because it had special priests, special shepherds who raised sheep for the temple sacrifice. It was these shepherds that had the first look at a new lamb and decided if that lamb was going to be for the sacrifice. It was these shepherds that got the first look at one of those sheep and decided that one is without spot or without blemish. This is going to be one that we will set aside. It was those shepherds they were the ones that after the birth of a sheep or a lamb, they would be the ones that decide this will be one we'll use for the temple sacrifice. So it was in this special place. Most likely, Mary, there's no room for her, but they had the baby. We think they had the baby in this place, the watchtower of the flock, in this special place. And instead of a sheep being laid on that manger that night, there was a baby laid on that manger. For hundreds of years, the only thing that was laid on that manger were sheep and little lambs. But on this particular night, in the watchtower of the flock, in the birthing room, because there was no other place available, Mary and Joseph have a child. And they place that child and wrap that child up with those cloths that normally sheep were wrapped in. And lay that baby on that manger. That stone where the shepherds would always take a look at that first lamb and decide if that was going to be a lamb for the sacrifice. And so they lay the baby. They don't think anything of it. They have nowhere else to go. But they're not there by accident. They're there on purpose. While they're having this child, laying this child there on the manger, out in the countryside, there these shepherds with the sheep. And we know they wouldn't have been December. It would have been way too cold for them to be out sleeping with the sheep. They slept with the sheep out there from May to probably end up right around the end of November or the beginning of November. We know there was probably this during the time of the Feast of the Tabernacles. They're out there thinking probably, what sheep are we going to use to celebrate God not being just over us, but God being with us? What sheep will we decide to use? While they're thinking about that, they're out there sleeping, trying to figure out which sheep they'll bring to the temple, what lamb they'll bring to the temple for the sacrifice that was required for the Feast of Weeks. Angels wake them up. They're scared. They don't know what's going on. Because they are not, shepherds were often seen as low-class people. Often seen as folk they could not always keep themselves ceremonially clean. Shepherds were not always seen in the best of light, even though David said, the Lord is my shepherd. They were not used to being visited by dignitaries. They were not used to being visited by people of importance. They were not used to being visited by greatness. But here on that night, these men who for years and years and years have been picking the sheep to bring to the temple for the priest to sacrifice, they get a visitor. The angel just kind of said, hey, unto you a Savior is born. And this will be a sign. You'll see a baby wrapped in swaddling cloth, lying in a manger. See, a good sign is a sign that you'll recognize. A good sign is a sign that is significant. A good sign, and here I want to give you 3 ideas. This sign was specific, this sign was significant, and this sign was sacred. Why? It says, you'll find a baby. That's not unusual. Wrapped in cloth. That's not unusual. Laying in a manger. For these shepherds, they knew exactly where to go. They didn't have to go searching. They knew what the angel meant. They knew the angel meant you'll go to the watchtower of the flock. And on the first floor in the birthing room, and instead of seeing a little lamb or a little sheep lying on that manger, you're going to see a Savior.